Thank you for joining us here on The Experience, and the nation is talking about immigration and what has been going on in Arizona, so naturally we're talking about it as well. Randy Feldman is our expert to tell us about it and how it relates to us. Maybe even we'll get into a little bit about how it may relate to us right here in Worcester, where certainly have a lot of people who are activists and who are hoping that there's going to be some sort of immigration reform at some point. Randy, what exactly happened in Arizona? I mean, the law is about to go into effect, a couple of hours until it's about to go into effect, and suddenly we have the judge who says, well, wait a minute, we're going to put the brakes on this. And then what happens, it seems, over the last 3 or 4 days as people have been talking about this, is you have everybody who says, oh my goodness, you know, now it's like not illegal to be illegal in Arizona, to people saying, well, wait a minute, you know, we're going to see some appeals on this and let's see what happens. What actually happened in this ruling?
The judge issued a preliminary injunction saying that the federal government is likely to win this lawsuit in the end. So the big issue was, did Arizona extend enforcement beyond what the federal government had said enforcement should be? We're talking legally now. We're not talking practically about whether you drop the ball, whether you do it correctly, whether you do it incorrectly, but whether you write down what is the law is and what rights do you have. Did Arizona go beyond the federal government in matters that the Constitution reserves for the federal government due to sovereignty concerns?
So this became a state rights versus the federal government issue?
Without question. That's what this whole issue is. Just like health care will be states' rights versus federal government, just like the Second Amendment and whether Chicago had a right to restrict your guns, just like gay marriage in Massachusetts will now work its way up through the federal courts. All of these are similar in that they're looking at states versus federal rights, and they look specifically, not in a generic sense, but in a specific sense of which clause do you hang your hat on, and is that a clause where the federal government has more authority or less authority, and thus should we look to the states to have more power, or should we keep it reserved in the federal government?
In this case, can you actually agree with both sides? Can you say that the federal government is absolutely right, that of course they have the power when it comes to immigration and the power to enforce that law, but that in this case they failed to do so, and so Arizona had the right as a state to step in and say, since the federal government has not, and they have asked for help, since they have not done what we need them to do when it comes to enforcing the borders, we as a state will step in.
As a matter of policy, everybody's in agreement that the immigration system is broken and it has to be fixed. The public itself is extremely confused on that matter. 57 to 60% of the people agree with Arizona, yet 81% of the people say that if everybody has a job and is paying their back taxes, people should have a way to get legalized. So the public itself doesn't really see that there are inconsistencies in its
Well,
positions.
it does seem as if the public is more agreeable now to a path to citizenship. A few years ago, of course, when it seemed as if we were going to have immigration reform, you had this groundswell of no amnesty, which kind of carried the day. I think, Randy, that people, I think you're absolutely right. I think that 80% of the American people, if somebody is working, if somebody is willing to pay their back taxes, they have been in this country for a long time, because it was the federal government itself, Republican, Democrats, who turned a blind eye to people coming here and working. I mean, a whole economy in the Southwest built on people coming over the border and working at some jobs that perhaps we as citizens didn't want to do, and at some lower wages. But it seems to me that what is lacking is some way to actually secure the border, that more people would agree to a path to citizenship if we felt that the border was secure, and 20 years from now we weren't just going to do the same thing again.
Everybody agrees that the border has to be more secure. The left, the right, the pro-immigrant people, everybody. The only disagreement is the earned legalization program. That's the only disagreement. And the left, of which I'm a part, doesn't want to agree to all the secured and more secured borders. Everybody agrees. It has to do with whether we should require employers to demand documents in a way that can't be falsified. And we're all for that generally, as long as there's a reasonable immigration system that works. But the broader point that I want to make is that people's perceptions here are not really what's at play in Arizona. This is a legal matter, and what's at play is the Constitution of the United States of America. And when it comes down to public perceptions or the Constitution, thank goodness the Constitution will win. And that's what this is about.
Well, where is this going to go now? Now, this goes to the Ninth Appeals District Appeals?
The Ninth Circuit.
And what happens there?
Well, the federal judge will have to be overturned as making a mistake in law in Arizona. In the Ninth Circuit, there is no way the Ninth Circuit will overturn the judge. It's a liberal court to begin with, and her error, it's a very well-reasoned decision. Remember, there's 5 areas that she said Arizona did wrong. There's 2 areas that she said Arizona did right. And she specifically tied those things into, did you extend yourself beyond federal law? And she pointed dramatically at how this is an extension beyond federal law in those 5 cases. So the Ninth Circuit won't count for those advocates who want to uphold the law. They know they're going to lose there, and it will not be an expedited hearing. So the whole thing will go to the Supreme Court. Right. And in the Supreme Court, you'll find that the Rehnquist court was very much into states' rights. The Roberts court, even though very conservative, is not as oriented towards states' rights.
So you're not seeing a 5-4 vote for Arizona?
No, it will certainly be, in my opinion, a 5-4, 6-3, or even 7-2 vote.
Really?
Yeah, for the U.S. Department of Justice. Because other than, this is a states' rights issue. This is not, do you want immigration to be enforced? Everybody wants immigration to be enforced. This is not states' rights versus federal rights in a general sense. This is, does the U.S. government have the right to control the sovereignty of the nation, including our foreign policy and our immigration policy? And on that particular constitutional issue, it is very strong that the federal government reigns supreme.
Randy, much more with you straight ahead right here on the Hank Stolz Experience.